only, I think it shows 4 lessons, and then this is chapter 1. Okay, chapter 2 is down here. That actually says chapter 2, and you can see the title. There'll be 4 videos on here today. There'll be 1. There's a little arrow over here. Remember, there's controls right here. I'm going to try to make those bigger, just so you can see it. If you click those, they'll scroll through all the rest of the videos. So you can get to whatever day. They're dated, and the sections are written in there, so you know what day and what section we covered. So today's video will be the first one in chapter 2. Eventually, once we're in chapter 2, maybe a section or 2, when I have more videos in there, I'll move this up. So those videos will be on the top, and you'll see it. They're always labeled. Okay, makes sense for the website detail in case you're watching videos. Yesterday for the test, I did not record that. It's just I don't record the test day. So I mean I think it's silly recording test day stuff. So all right. Okay, so chapter 2. What the title of this section is called number theory. Okay, it's called number theory. What that means, we're going to be looking at different ways of breaking numbers down, not just division and stuff, and doing those divisibility tests and whatnot. What we're doing is we're looking at the different sets of numbers and how they're affecting. Because our first chapter was all based on whole numbers, correct? We learned on how to add whole numbers, subtract whole numbers, multiply, divide them, how to find averages, mean, mode, that type of thing. But now what we're going to be doing is looking at like the more upper level math stuff. So like categories of numbers, how to break numbers down, that type of thing. So it makes your life a little bit easier. So like one of our first topics we're going to talk about today at some point is what a factor is. Factor of a number. Okay? Or we'll look at what a multiple of a number is today. That's what we're going to be looking at. And eventually these branch into other topics, but this is a number theory. It's looking at a number and like theorizing what's important about it. Why do we have individual categories of numbers? And we'll get to those categories again because I know I think I introed those like the first day of school, the different classifications of numbers. We're going to get back into that because it is important to me that you understand the different categories of numbers and how they all apply to each other. But today after lunch, we're going to talk about factors and how they're different than multiples, so we can use them for later stuff. This idea of knowing what factors are is really big for division. It actually can make division super fast, and that's what I want to eventually show you. It's like, I know some people they really stress doing division. Like you just don't like it. You don't like the column, the house method, long division. I'm going to try to show you a different way of dividing so that it's easier for you. So it's a different strategy because that's what this class is all about, right? Showing you basic concepts plus different strategies that work for you personally. So now, like a lot of you like that the multiplication chart, correct? For like doing long division. That's awesome. I mean, that's one strategy you guys can have. But obviously, at some point in your life, you won't have that. So that's when I'm going to show you these other ideas like factors and multiples and stuff. So that's what we're eventually going to go into. All right. So we'll eventually talk about those. Then eventually in chapter 2, it won't be today, but later on, we're eventually going to talk about the sets of numbers again, sets of real numbers. We are eventually in this, like when we get to chapter 3 and stuff, we'll look at the other sets. I think the next one we're moving into, I believe it's decimals. So I believe that's the next category. I have to look one more time, but we're eventually going to get to sets, and we're gonna start looking at how these affect, especially like division. That's one of the key things that I know that we need to discuss. So that's kind of what chapter 2 is going to bring us. On this chapter, I believe this is one of the shortest chapters in your book. I believe it's only 6 sections long, because the way that I mix chapters and parts together, we don't do like every section like the last chapter. We'll do section 1, section 2, section 3. We'll bounce around now to see how that works. Okay, any questions, comments, concerns with what we're going to be doing here? We're going to start with factors today for sure. If we get to multiples, we'll talk about that. All right. You got a couple minutes here. You can just take a break. We'll wait till after lunch, and we'll introduce the concepts we're working on here today. Okay? All right. So, factors. They're numbers that multiply to give you a product. They're pieces of an original number. So what I mean by that is if I give you like the number 12, it's a number, right? It's a digit. It's a whole number. Some of the numbers we've been learning here. There are certain numbers that multiply to give you 12, correct? Certain numbers multiply to give you it. So, here's the idea. Can we think of the list that would give you 12? Let's start with the first couple numbers. What do you think? 6 times? 6 times 2. Okay, that's good. Those are factors. Those are factors of 12. What's another pair? 4 and 3. 3 and 4. Right? Doesn't matter how you write it. Those are factors, right? They're numbers that multiply to give you 12. There's one more pair.
12 more.
12 and 1. That's the one that most people forget. They always forget the easy one. 1 times itself. Right? Those are numbers. These are factors. Every number you have has a pair of factors. At least one pair. Now, number 12 has more than one pair, but they're numbers that multiply to give you a certain digit, right? A certain number, product. When we were doing in chapter 1, we were adding numbers or subtracting numbers. Those numbers are called addends. A lot of people don't know that. Addends are numbers that add to give you a sum. They're numbers that add to give a sum. So, for instance, like the number 12, there's a bunch of addends that would add to give you 12. You have like an infinite number of addends. So like 1 plus 11, right? 2 plus 10. 3 plus 9. These are addends. They're numbers that add to give you things. A lot of people don't know that term. Factors are the same style. You are multiplying those numbers to give you. Now this is easy. If you're really quick with thinking about numbers that multiply to give you 12, you can divide 12 really easily. Okay? Because what I mean by that is if you can think of these numbers off the top of your head, and I'm taking 12 divided by 2, you think of what pair goes with the 6, right? Or with the 2, I mean. What number goes with 2 to give you 12? 6, right? That's right. That's how you can do division really, really fast. That you think of, okay, what are the pairings? The number 2 goes with 6. That's the answer. When you take 12 divided by 2, the other number in the pair for the factors. Okay, that's one strategy that some people are very, very good at. That's why I told you, if you have really good skills for multiplying, like you can multiply numbers, you know how to divide numbers now. Because those pairings make that individual number, and now you can divide it out. So factors, very, very easy. What you're looking at here, this strategy that I'm showing you here, this is called a factor tree. This is called a factor tree. I believe they introduced these typically like junior high, elementary, 5th, 6th grade kind of thing. They're doing factor trees because they teach a division unit. The problem with factor trees, the problem that I have with it, is that there are no particular order. There's no rhyme or reason for how they work. Some people are not very good at finding other numbers, in a factor tree. When there's more than a pair, it's very hard to think of all the different pairings. So here's how I do a factor tree. So I'm going to give you a bigger number. Let's say we pick the number 54. Okay, just a different number. What I always do when I do a factor tree, this is just my little strategy, so I know that I'm going to get every possible combination of factors for 54. Some people just can't think of that. I start with the number 1, right? 1 times what gives you 54? 54, right? So that's the easy one, right? Then what I do, and this is my strategy for this, I list all the numbers past 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I just keep going until I'm comfortable. I usually try 8 or 9. I go in that range. And what I do is, on a calculator, I know this seems cheating, but I use a calculator, and I take 54 divided by this number, because that will give me the other number in the pair. Well, if you take 54 and you divide by 2, so I'm going to do it by hand here. 54 divided by 2. 2 goes into 5, twice is a 4, so that would be a 1. Bring on to 14. 2 goes into 14 7 times, perfectly. So it looks like 54 divided by 2 is actually 27. 27 times 2 is 54. So I found a pair. That's a pair of factors. That's how I do it. I literally divide the numbers out. So now I'm going to try the number 3. Okay, so the number 3. 3 goes into 5 once.
I subtract, you get a 2, bring down the next number. 3 goes into 24 8 times. That's a 24 exactly. I subtract, you get a 0, so that's a factor. All right, notice I'm not getting decimals. If I try the number 4, I think this will give me a decimal. If I do this right. What do we have? 54, I'm going to divide by 4. So 4 goes into 5 once. 4 times 1 is 4. Subtract, we get 1. Bring down the 4. 4 doesn't go into 14, goes into like 3 times. And you notice, yeah, that's right. And then you get a remainder of 2, right? Do you agree that we have a remainder? That means it doesn't go in there. 4 is not a factor. If there's a remainder when you divide, not a factor. That's the idea. What about 5? 54. Do you think 5 is going to go into it? No, because it doesn't end in a 5 or a 0. So if I do this, 5 goes into 5 once. I subtract, I get a 4. 5 doesn't even go into 4. I mean, it goes into 0 times 5 times 0 is 0. And yes, I get a remainder of 4. So it's 10 point something. So 5 is not a factor. So 5 is not a factor. So I just cross them out when I know they're getting remainders. So now I try 6. Well, I know 6 is going to work. The reason why I know 6, 2 and 3 go into it. They work perfectly. So I know 6 will work. 54 divided by 6. It won't go in there, it won't go into 5, but it will go into 54 exactly 9 times. It's 6 times 9. Then I would try 7. 54 does not go into 7. I can just tell you that right now. 7 times 7 is 49. 7 times 8 is 56. So it doesn't go in there. It'd be over. 8 doesn't work because we already did 7 and 8. And so we're back to 9. The minute you try every number, you get to this point where these numbers, there's nothing in between them, and they're super close together, like 7 and 8 don't work. And I got to this pair of numbers where they're almost the exact same digit, you know you're done. So I draw a line. But I go into the point where I check every number on the calculator. Notice I erased the numbers that didn't work. I erased 4, 5, 7, 8 didn't work. All right, you see how I do factor trees. This guarantees that I'll find every number. All I have to be able or willing to do is to divide by hand. So I take 54 divided by the number I wrote over here. Those are factors. Some people are really good at factors, and they make your life a lot easier. Okay, I'll give you different strategies for that. Okay, any questions with the word factor? Okay, let's do the last word here today, which is the word multiple. Multiple, and I'll put it over here so you can see it. So again, that 54 has a bunch of factors, but now a multiple a multiple is a list of numbers created by multiplying your number by the whole numbers. Now I'll let you write that down. Okay, so it is a list of numbers created by multiplying your number by a bunch of whole numbers. Now let's talk about what are the whole numbers. What were the numbers we just learned in the last chapter? Think about whole numbers. What's the first whole number you can think of? 2. That's a number. That's a whole number. I agree. Go smaller than that. 1. Keep going. One more. 0. 0 is the first whole number. How I remember the whole numbers? There's an O in whole. Looks like a 0. You start with 0. That's the whole numbers. 0 and an up. So somebody give me a relatively small number. 3. Okay, that's fine. 3, right? So let's say this is your number. They give you 3, and they want quote unquote the list of multiples for 3. Quote unquote the list of multiples, not factors, but multiples, right? So what you do is this is how you create your list.
You take 3 times the first whole number. What was the first whole number we just talked about a little bit ago? You take it times 0. Then you take your 3 times 1, and your 3 times 2, and your 3 times 3, and 3 times 4. And you keep going. Da, 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 da. Okay? There's an infinite number of whole numbers, or of multiples. Right? And you just keep going. So what is 3 times 0? 0. 3 times 1? 3. 3 times 2? 3 times 3? 3 times 4? 12. Thank you. All right, so, and then you can keep going. Da, 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 da. And what I'm doing is I'm putting this in a little set. This is set notation. This is actually called a roster method, right? Roster method. Putting numbers least to greatest in a set. It's a set of numbers. Sets have curly braces. They're separated by commas, least to greatest. Those are the multiples. Notice, multiples get big. When you multiply numbers, they get big, right? That's how I remember multiples. Factors are when you're trying to break a number into smaller numbers. So 54 is the biggest number you can have, and you have to go factoring it to factor it into pieces. Okay. All right, do we see the difference between multiples and factors today? Okay. On Monday, we are going to definitely have an assignment on this stuff. We're going to have a couple factors. That'll be before lunch. After lunch, we'll do multiples for that, so we can really separate the differences. And then eventually, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday next week, we figure out why we do this. Why do we use factors, or why do we use multiples? That's what we're going into. Okay? All right, you're done for the day. You can work on whatever you need to. So there you go. Very nice, very easy. That's where you're going to check your score. Test. I'll take that back in a minute.
Write down paragraphs and stuff. How many things?
He's not really
That's all what you do.
Setting up for my next class is tests. So I spread them out really far from each other. There's a whole class full. I got like 22 of them in for now.
We're all freshmen after this.
Nice.